Get off my lawn! Burning Rubber is not a familiar name to a lot of people, but for those of us who remembered 1990 in the UK and a freshly plugged in 8-bit Amstrad CPC Plus or GX system, this 131KB cartridge will inspire nothing but fond memories. But our story begins even further back. A game called Outrun was released in the arcades, where you jumped into a fast car and went flying along trying to reach checkpoints before the timer ran out. This was a huge success, and was subsequently ported to consoles and home computers, including the Amstrad. Unfortunately, the version it got was nowhere near as good. Meanwhile, upstart coder John O'Brien was given the task of porting Konami's WEC Le Mans 24 to the Amstrad. He did a much better job of it than the poor soul responsible for Outrun, and Ocean and Amstrad both took notice of this. The company wanted a title that could showcase the true power of its new line of 8-bit machines in the bold new decade of the 1990s. And one that would spearhead their march into the console market with the GX 4000 Plus. And from this desire, Burning Rubber was born. Burning Rubber is a third-person timed checkpoint racing game, much like Outrun and WEC Le Mans 24. But its vivid colour palette, superb sounds, and near-instantaneous cartridge-based loading system made it an instant hit with new Amstrad owners. Unlike the other titles I mentioned, this was an exclusive that came bundled with the machine when you bought it. You couldn't get it in stores, and it was never ported to any other system. Jonathan Dunn's theme came blasting out of the speakers courtesy of the enhanced DMA sound chip that would rival 16-bit consoles, and you knew you were in for a great time. The goal of Burning Rubber is to survive a 20-minute time-trialed endurance race. That's definitely not Le Mans due to licensing issues, but most certainly is. You'll start in broad daylight and have to constantly be on your toes to avoid swerving off the road or into competing cars. This slowly gives way to an evening gloom, and then the dead of night, which was utterly stunning to witness at the time. And through this graphical splendour you must keep pushing forward and hitting those checkpoints before your time runs out. One false move or one fatal error will have you careening into the sky or spinning out of the competition altogether if your timer is too low. You have a choice between automatic or manual gears for even more of a challenge. But even if you have the best of starts, this game is particularly tough to beat, with the only completion I've seen happening with 0 crashes and 0 seconds to spare. The link to that is in the description. Your car is just like all the other cars you'll encounter, simply a different colour. Aside from a brief qualifying session that serves as a tutorial for the game mechanics, you're not competing against them for a position in the race. This means that it's not essential to overtake everything you see, and it's also not a big deal if somebody overtakes you. Your fellow motor enthusiasts are not competitors, they're moving obstacles and should be treated as such. The problem with moving obstacles is you don't know what direction they're going to head in. Some will hug the outside of corners, others will get in your way with an unerring prescience, and plenty of those terrible drivers will collide with each other, sliding diagonally across the track and forcing you to perform evasive manoeuvres as smoke spews from their wrecked bodies. Sometimes you'll be able to bump them at great expense to your speed, other times you'll get lucky and a mere graze will be your reward. It's a delicate balance that can only be honed by hundreds of races. It's also entertaining to hit them at high speed, resulting in your car dramatically flipping up into the air and bouncing along the track like a rubber ball. Your car is surprisingly durable, but you're not going to win the race by doing that. There's a big track to cover with multiple checkpoints and corners and the odd tunnel thrown in there for good measure. You must complete 4 maps of it quickly enough to beat the timer, but without running into anything. This was impossible for most players, yours truly included. The track was a fickle mistress back in 1990. On some days you'd have a superb run, and everything would fall into place. Other times, your entire attempt would be scuppered by a single errant driver careening into you from behind. The RNG aspect of the game kept the player coming back for more. to the point where the cartridge would be permanently shunted into the Amstrad, and you wouldn't bother with the disk drive games at all. Despite the limited sounds in-game consisting of your engine and those of your competitors, with the odd thudding sound if you did the aforementioned acrobatics, Burning Rubber kept you coming back for more. Overall, even when ignoring the fond memories it evokes, Burning Rubber is a quality latter-day 8-bit racer, one of the better ones out there, and fans of that style of gaming who never owned an Amstrad should definitely take it for a spin in an emulator. With the arrival of the Mega Drive in the UK and the subsequent port of Outrun to the 16-bit console, Burning Rubber was rendered long in the tooth within a year, and the console it helped launch was dead in the water. The appearance of the multimedia IBM PC clones ended Amstrad's hopes in the home computing market, and the likes of the Lotus Turbo Challenge series made Burning Rubber look positively ponderous. But for a brief moment in time, living in the UK in the early 90s meant lots of big box Amstrad releases, sharing shelf space with PC and console alike. And of the many great games for the system, Burning Rubber will always remain my favourite.